One brother Roop here. Yeah, the book of Acts is a very interesting book to read. It's tells about the beginning of the church and what took place and what happened, and it's an amazing story of 3,000 devout Jews finding salvation in Jesus Christ at one sermon, one altar call. You know, those 3,000 Jews, that was the start of the church. Some were locals, a lot of them were also from around the Roman Empire. Some were from Rome because when those folks went back, they started a church in Rome. There are other parts of the empire as well, Alexandria and Athens and other places, and they went back and continued in the Christian religion and started churches. The church in Jerusalem, of course, started, and the first people were Jews. After Jews, Hellenistic Jews joined, were saved, like Stephen and Philip. They were Hellenistic Jews. Hellenistic Jews were Jews that had more of a Greek culture, the Jewish culture. And then he had Samaritans who came by the thousands to the church. They were saved very soon afterwards. And Samaritans were half Jews, half Gentiles. They're a mixture of both. So it wasn't too far of a leap for the Jews to accept Samaritans, even though the Jews and Samaritans didn't like each other. They're rivals in the Jewish faith, but at least they were part Jews, so there wasn't too much of a problem accepting Samaritans by the Jews. Now, Gentiles was something completely different. Jesus didn't even preach to the Gentiles in his ministry. The apostles never saw Jesus preach to the Gentiles. He told the apostles to stay away from the Gentiles. But what he meant was during his ministry. So the apostles have in their mind that they're not supposed to go to the Gentiles at all. So it's about 10 years after the church has begun, with the church spreading not only in Israel but around the world. About 10 years later, before Cornelius and his family is saved by Peter, the preaching of Peter. Remember, Peter had the keys to the kingdom. So. And that's probably not by accident. I know God knew that it would be very difficult for the Gentiles to come to the church, and it was. It turned out to be very difficult. When Gentiles started coming into the church by the thousands, by the preaching of the Apostle Paul, it caused a big problem. They had to have a Jewish conference, and we read that in the book of Acts chapter 15, where they had to settle on doctrine and customs and how both sets would get along, the Jews and the Gentiles get along together. The first Gentiles that came in the church were proselytes. They were Gentiles that were already very close to Judaism, had been studying Judaism, were already living in Israel, and more than likely heard about the ministry of Jesus, and I'm sure they heard about the church in Jerusalem. Those were the first Gentiles to come into the church, and when the Apostle Paul went to Asia Minor and started preaching, they started converting by the hundreds, if not thousands, and that's when the Christianity really started to spread when the church went to the Gentiles, and Gentiles started accepting Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And that's when the church stopped being a Jewish sect in Judaism, and then it started being a church, a religion all its own. And I would probably think that would start at chapter 15 of Acts, the council and the church council. I think about that time, it really, at that point, changed from being a Jewish sect in Judaism to its own religion altogether. Anyway, it's exciting to read about the birth of the Christian church. I think my next videos will be on how church denominations started, how they started, and the problems we see in that. Thank you.